He said, absolutely. I asked him that question recently and he said, actually, it's pretty good. So kids adjust, lives change. Now, the flip side of it is, and you can say this is a rationalization, but I think it's true. The flip side is there are a lot of blessings that come along with this life. And, I've talked to him a lot about this. I've actually, I write this in the book that Charlie Kirk was probably the person who was most influential in helping me think through this conversation is, don't try to pretend that it's not a sacrifice to him. Like don't pretend that you haven't signed him up for something that has changed his life. You have. But I try to talk to him about, well, there are benefits too. You've gotten to see the world and you've got to see the country in a way that no kid has ever gotten to see it. And we get to live in this cool house. I live in the Naval Observatory here in Washington, D.C. We would not get to do that if I was not the vice president. So what I've learned to do with him is not to minimize the negative, but to try to contextualize it, but also to try to emphasize the positive. And it's funny, I asked him this probably about a year ago. I said, are you still unhappy that I became the vice president? This was probably 4 or 5 months into it. He said, absolutely. I asked him that question recently and he said, actually, it's pretty good. So kids adjust, lives change. You figure out a routine for the kids. But I also think that, that guilt motivated certain conduct. Would we have built the life that we have around him were it not for this recognition that we had caused this change and this disruption? No. So you take the good with the bad. You accept that you've caused some problems, but you also accept that you can make things better.